Hello, my dear Dawn.
Hello.
Finally, I have you here with your
At long last.
beautiful hair.
I'll shake it out just for you.
Thank you. I try to make myself a little bit more like, like you, but it's impossible.
Well, you're you and I'm me. So you do you.
Yeah. Okay, Dawn, I'm so happy to finally have you here, on a Monday morning here, earlier for you, I think, right?
It's a little after 8. And
My
for you?
dear, it's a little after 11, so we have
Okay. 3
3 hours.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah. My dear, today there is a hot topic, but before going there, I would like to ask you how you got there in the chat box, how you found us, because I'm so happy to have you there.
You
How?
know, it was Luke's English podcast. He did a video with you. And I don't actually remember the content of the video. But I remember that when I discovered Luke, I thought I had found something special because I never watched YouTube videos for teaching English until I started doing them myself, which was less than a year ago. And so I started seeing, okay, well, what else is out there? And a lot of it has a certain style that's very teachery. But when I found Luke, I really liked his style because it's very conversational, but it's conversation for English learners and it's very authentic and I really liked it. Very long also. But I don't actually remember the content, but I remember you were there. You said something about the chat box that made me want to find it. And I joined, and it just felt like an extremely special place. And I mean, honestly, I felt like these are my people and I am at home. That's really honestly what I felt as soon as I joined. And then when I heard about the singing challenge a few days later, I'm like, of course there's a singing challenge. How could there not be a singing challenge? I found my people. So that's what happened.
And
Yeah.
the first chat you had, the first coffee chat was with Ludmila.
Right. Yes. And I keep planning to go back and it just hasn't happened so far. Like today she's having one, but I have a workshop that I'm giving at the same time.
What are you doing? What is, I mean, what is your thing? I mean, because I have seen some of your videos. I love them, I was telling you before we started recording that I enjoy everything that, I mean, you use a lot of like your voice, the body, and everything, and it remains on you, right? It remains on
Yes.
the listener, on the receptor.
Yes.
Yeah, it
Yes.
remains. Yeah.
Thank you. You know what? You just gave me a huge compliment because that's really what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that what I do will stick with the person on the other end and stick with them because it's rhythmic, because it has interesting, memorable details, and also because we go deep into it and a lot of the time repeat it depending on what it is. And because I try to involve the person on the other end in the process of discovery rather than just, like I said before, blasting you with information, which you can do in a much shorter time. I try to bring you in and make it a discovery process for you also. And I'm aware of that, but it's also just the way I naturally am. So it's both my natural style and also something that I'm conscious of. So what am I about? I've been teaching English, my entire adult career, and I always did it in person until the pandemic. So, and most of it was one-on-one. So it would be like this, me and you, except there's just a table between us and I'm probably in your house and I work with you for 3 years and I know all these details of your life. And I almost feel like I've traveled to your country because I know so much about you and the way you think and the way you live. So that was my experience until the pandemic. I also taught in groups, so that's a little bit different. But I guess for me, it's always been about helping the learner more clearly express their thoughts and feelings, and I see it as just a continual process. And I really love to get into the mind of the learner and see their processes and their learning process. So even if I'm teaching something that I've taught a million times, it's always new for me because I'm with a new mind. So, and people, if you just watch my YouTube videos, you could get the impression that I focus mostly on pronunciation, but that's really not true. I focus on everything, but there are elements of English intonation and rhythm that are so fun and so neglected, not really talked about enough. And they're so important that I like to bring attention to those. And I also find it's just a fun way to get into rhythms and make things memorable, like you were saying.
You're right. You're completely right. The other day I saw your video where you talk about cat lover or
Yes,
cat lover, right?
yes,
And
yes,
I completely agree with you that the intonation in that part changes the meaning, right?
yes,
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So well,
Yeah, that's
you've been
that's a really important pattern, and I still have a lot more to say about it, but I'll be working on that.
oh my God, your glass is ajar.
Yeah. It's like a mason jar, a
Oh
canning
my
jar for.
God. Well, that
Yes.
is good because we have to drink water, and I don't do that so often. I need
Ah.
to drink water. Okay. Well, so today we also have another topic. Okay. You started a fire, my dear. What is that? Well, I'm happy, because we in the chat books have been a little bit silent lately,
Hmm.
So I loved when I saw you, bringing a topic in with all the passion, and all your opinion. Okay, it was about a video from Christian Saunders. Okay, that is called, I think the name is "Learning is Useless," and I think that brought you some kind of reaction. And yeah, please let me know why did it hit you so to the core of you?
Mhm. Well, I mean, I do think it's a provocative title, and I don't have any problem with provocative titles because that could be something to get people in, sort of disrupt their thought processes, make them see things in a new way, and that could be very positive. And I think honestly that Christian probably does have that effect on people a lot of the time, and that's probably a good thing. So it wasn't the title of the video that made me feel like I needed to record a response to it. It was the content. It was the content. And I think that we should remember that I I agreed very strongly with some of the things he said, with two what I perceive as two main points of his, if I interpreted them correctly. And I know one of them I did because, when he said learners are not containers, your head is not a container, that's not very, it's not very easy to misinterpret that. So I agreed with a couple of things he said, but then I disagreed, and I think that the disagreement is probably more memorable and that sticks with people more. So let's not forget that I also strongly agree with him on a couple of really important points.
Yeah, well,
But
there is
but if
no
I had only agreed with him, I probably wouldn't have recorded a response.
no, there is
Yeah.
no issue to disagree with Christian.
Mhm.
Maybe I would like to say Christian has some effect on the people, right? Um, s- this is one of the effects that he has. He's maybe interrupts the status quo of something, right?
Mhm.
And he brings an idea, right? Sometimes I think that maybe I'm talking not on his behalf because I am
Sure.
trying to understand, right? I try to understand one person that I like, one person that I have been following his ideas, right? For a long time, okay? And what I see is that he sometimes does this. He provokes people to talk about something on a deeper way or a
Mhm.
more meaningful way. Okay. When I met him, the effect was Kathy, you are, such a good communicator. You have this friendly style. Why don't you try to do something? And he didn't say what. Okay.
Sure.
Then he put me in contact with another person, Pasquale. And that person says, why don't you start doing some interviews, whatever? Okay. So the thing is that somehow he provokes people to do something. Okay. So, in my way, in my opinion, he provoked, he made me believe that I can do something, not only teaching, like you, one to one or on groups, personally, face to face. And I just started the chat box because of, this meeting
Mhm.
with him. And also, if you start talking with other people, it's like that, he sometimes, you know, I think that he observes, things, and he says something, share something, maybe in his own style, right? And the effect, it's never like you cannot do it. It's always the opposite, why don't you? Okay, why can't you? Okay,
Mhm.
and go ahead, and you don't understand, or you don't believe, or you don't agree with me. Do something if you want to do something. I mean, it's like that. So that's why I think that this is a consequence, right, of this. You don't agree with learning is useless. I don't agree either on learning is useless, only the phrase. Okay, I imagine something like that. Learning is useless unless you do whatever. Learning is useless if you only want to collect knowledge. Learning is, I mean, I would say something, and that's what I think Christian is, right? He makes you say something from the thing that he exposes or shows. Okay.
Sure. Mhm. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I well, so for you, when he says learning is useless, he puts a question in your mind that then you have to think about and arrive at your own answer. And maybe different people arrive at different answers, and maybe everybody arrives at the answer that is right for them at that moment. And
Or
so it's more,
maybe you have to say, no way.
well,
Okay.
I learning is useless is the title of his video, and he says it a few times throughout the video, but I never felt like I knew what he meant by that statement, because I guess like there's one we all come with our background, and I don't know all of your background. Even people who know you well don't know all of your background, and we all have our personality and our perception of the world that we filter everything through. So something about me that you would have no way of knowing is that just in general, I think just the way my mind is, I think I have a low tolerance for logical inconsistency. And it's not that I'm doing it on purpose, that I'm just looking for people to have a logical error, but I think it's just the way I process information. And so it was not, I wasn't really reacting to the statement learning is useless. I was reacting to some of these logical leaps that I thought were completely
I got you. I got you.
unjustified.
I got
that
you.
that was that
Yeah.
was what got me. And you asked me earlier what made me record that response. It was it was he made some statements that I feel are untrue about things that I think a lot about and that I care a lot about children. Like when he said adult minds are better than child minds, it's really hard for me not to respond to that statement, because I believe that it's it's almost nonsensical. But if you're going to analyze it for whether or not it's true, it's not true. It's just not true. And I think about the learning process in children, especially since I've had my own. I've been a mom for 10 years, and I watch their developmental process. And so I read a lot about the process of development in children. and they have gifts, and to say adult minds are better than child minds, it's very hard for me to not respond to that statement. And also the other thing that I care about deeply is language learning. And so he said some things about language learning that, according to my understanding of the world, are not true. And so he happened to touch on topics that I have thought a lot about, that I have a lot of personal experience observing and being a part of. And I have beliefs that are very detailed and that I feel very strongly. And so that was what made me respond to the video.
You know what? I studied for 10 years psychoanalysis. That I'm a psychologist, and I had to study for 10 years, a little bit more than 10 years. Yeah.
That's a long time, Kati.
Yeah,
10 years.
Lacan, yeah. And I went to the postmodernism, realm, and I learned a lot about that. I think that all that I learned, because I studied. No, I have to be more careful when I say I studied. Okay. But you know what I learned? The experience. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Experience is what I learned. I learned experience of being open-minded completely, because some of the statements that I had to study were even unthinkable in this moment of my life. Okay, so the thing is, I completely agree with you that some of the statements that Christian uses, like, for example, adults are better than children, undermines. Okay, yeah, I have to be careful where he stands from and how he gets there, right? And the other thing, which I agree with you, that somehow it seems like he goes with a pattern, moving, and then he says learning is useless, not being connected exactly. But yeah, it's, I think that he is bringing this idea of interrupting, okay, because that is what I think makes us being in this position to try to explain. I remember Lacan, in this moment, sorry, I don't see it. So difficult. But I remember Lacan when he was, writing his books and whatever. Oh my God, I had to read something once and again and to understand exactly the logic. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
logic, why that person okay, but in the end, what's the process that he created that ended up by starting a school, a science, or kind of, because it's not being called science. But the thing is here, I imagine that you have this need to have this follow-up logic, right? Which is perfect. And that logic brought you to a position that you share with us such an incredible amount of references and resources. You quoted Pinker, you quoted a phrase.
Sir Ken Robinson, Noam Chomsky.
I love that one, yeah.
And Oscar Wilde, yes.
Yeah, of course, and it was perfect, yeah. And you created a material that was really useful for us, the learners, right? That is your point, and of course, a lot of people are going to follow the line that you presented. Okay, you created some sort of content. I mean, not created, but you reunited this information and show it into a position, right? Which is excellent, right? And Christian has been doing that for a long time. And the position where he arrived is the position that, in my case, I, like. I think that that position is good because he is the same person that you heard, in the video. It's the same person that says, go burn your books.
Mhm.
Burn your books, your textbooks, okay? It's the same person that says, stop studying, start communicating, his famous phrase, okay? And the same person that, when you talk to him, or you see some of the interviews that he's done with a lot of people, he understands positions like yours, like really, really, really interesting and insightful, okay? And
Maybe, yeah. Oh no, maybe you can share one or two links with me, because
yes, I have it.
I've only seen some of his stuff. I'm not nearly as familiar with his work as you and probably most of the chat boxers are.
Can I
interrupted you?
Can I share now just one small thing? Okay, this
Sure.
I was I tried I went to the YouTube and I say I'm going to share Dawn, maybe 1 minute. Okay, I have here this is Christian talking to Steve Kaufman. He's a polyglot, very famous person. Okay, and look what he says here.
I was originally in the Canadian diplomatic service and I got into the lumber business. But over the last, say, 10, 12 years, I've become very interested in the whole subject of language learning. And so I have a website together with my son where people learn, 35 languages we have on the site. It's called Link, LINGQ.com. I've also learned more languages after the age of 60 than I learned before the age of 60. So I'm now, I was working on Arabic and Persian, which would be number 19 and number 20. Not that I speak them all fluently, but quite a few of the ones that I've learned since the age of 60, certainly my Russian, I understand, very well. And I communicate with mistakes, but fairly comfortably. So I'm a language keener, let's say.
Was learning languages part of your career in the diplomatic service? I imagine it was.
I grew up in Montreal, which was theoretically bilingual, but wasn't bilingual. So English-speaking Montreal was English and French-speaking Montreal was French. That has since changed, but I became interested in French, even though I didn't really learn it.
You know what? I wanted to show you the part where he says that how he starts a language from scratch. And he said, I buy a book, a very basic book, okay? And I start learning with the book. And this is, and Christian, of course, laughs and he says, oh, yeah, okay. He understands that is the position of the other person, right? He knows a lot of languages, he can speak a lot of language, and he started with a book. And this is the same person, Christian, who says, burn your books. Okay. Right. And here I have another. Maybe this one, I got it in the exact position. This is Patsy Light Brown. Okay. Teacher from Harvard. I don't know. Okay.
Acquisition as another area of focus. And when I was at Columbia University, sort of not sure whether I wanted to continue the kind of teaching that I had been taught to do and that had been used on me, which was at the time mostly audiolingual, drill, pattern practice. And then I took a course in child development. And one of the first lectures we had in that course was on child language. And I said, bingo, no wonder we're so unsuccessful in the classroom. We got it all wrong. We're not focusing on meaning. We're focusing on bits of language that are sort of disconnected, and we need to focus on getting people to say what they mean and understand what other people are saying. So meaning and form connection right there changed the direction of my research. And I went to Quebec, to Montreal.
Okay, well, this is Christian talking to this woman about children learning I mean, not learning. I think they go a little bit more towards acquisition, language acquisition, right? But the thing is that, you know, Dawn, I think the most important here is that you brought a lot of very, very good content to the chat box, right? I'm so grateful for that. You know, you brought a lot of ideas, and these ideas need to be continued, right? Maybe, you know, maybe not like a lecture, right? Maybe like, you know, bringing people to the topic. Maybe you can invite Roberto and have some talk about his experience, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need to tell you something. Oh, yes, sorry. So only one more
No,
little.
go ahead.
Yeah. When you know, I speak English with a lot of mistakes, right? And I am an English teacher.
Few,
Oh my,
just a few.
oh my God. Okay. But the thing is that I was teaching English, or I had been teaching English for about 30 years or 25 years or more. Okay. I learned English in Ecuador from an institution. I learned with textbooks. I learned, you know, I graduated. I took my exam and everything. When I started, you know, having this conversation with people like you, like Christian, like Megan from Australia, like Eva from Spain, like Roberto from, you know, I started seeing that some of my so secure and safe knowledge, some of the knowledge that I thought it was completely okay, no, it's not the way people speak, you know. Yeah, the auxiliary verbs always go in the front part of the sentence. Yeah, you have to say, did you like that? No, people say, do you like that? You like with the past tense and without did.
Yeah.
So I had to
unlearn. Yes.
Learn.
Yeah, sure.
So maybe that's why Christian says learning is useless, but not because learning is useless as a complete absolute. Or maybe he does, maybe he says that, right? I'm not going to put my words.
Yeah, I think we'll have to ask him. I look forward to asking him, you know. I think he would probably like to respond, because I tried to sort of maybe guess throughout my response to the video, okay, so maybe when you say learning, you mean studying is useless or teaching, or, you know, but I don't know. I mean, I would like to hear him answer what he meant by learning, because then when he gets to the end of the video, he starts talking about learning as a good thing. So learning is useless. Oh, here's what learning really is, and it's good. So, you know, so I don't know. I mean, I think we would just have to.
Yeah, that's right.
We can think about it, but we won't know what he meant until we ask him, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, I need to say something now that is related to you know, you said that somehow it was like the Trump followers or something like that, you know, but I think that is not for real, you know. I imagine that you said that because you wanted to use an example, right? But it's not exactly like that, because we all, you know what, I mean, I'm not going to say we, I really like Christian. And I think that a lot of people could say that they like, but we question Christian a lot. Sometimes Christian is crazy, you know. He says something and I don't know, but he's human, right?
Okay, so you okay, so you feel like you don't revere him to the extent where you will just accept anything he says and make it like you still are able to look at him and what he says particularly what he says with a critical eye. And yeah, okay. Yeah, you know, I've when I made that comment, and you'll notice if you go back to the video, I say it occurs to me because really it was just occurring to me. So it wasn't something that I had, you know, planned that I was going to say, but I was reflecting on those comments that I had heard in the chat box, and it just reminded me, it made me think of the way some apologists for Donald Trump will say, you know, because the truth about Donald Trump is that he just says whatever pops into his head, and 99.9% of the time it's complete BS, which I think everybody knows means, can I say the word?
Oh, yeah, but it's a
bullshit, right?
Bullshit,
So people who follow him will say, oh, you can't take him literally, right?
No,
and so it reminded me of this.
I have to say that maybe, yeah, the thing is that, for example, my opinion, I am not a Trump follower, but I completely respect the people who are.
Really?
I respect my son. I wouldn't respect my son, my dear. Yes, my son loves Trump, loves
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. But I don't like him, you know, but I understand, and I need to be, you know, objective when I say, okay, you like him, okay, it's your opinion. So that is the thing. That's why I was worried with your.
Yeah, no, let me respond to that a little bit more, because Joanne took exception to that comment. And so I was reflecting more, because really I was not sure if I should leave that part in or not. Ultimately, I left it in, but you know, maybe it could have been taken out. And a funny thing about that comment is that I told Joanne, when I got to that part of the video, I stuttered. And I think I had to try like 5 times to say Trump. And so you could see so many things that I cut out of the video. Someday I'll post you a little blooper reel of me trying to say Trump followers have said the same thing, because I can barely say it. Was my body telling me, you don't need to make this comment in the video? Maybe. Or am I traumatized from Trump's reign of terror? Maybe so, because I hardly ever use that word. It's like a dirty word to me. So it was a very, very tenuous, that means it's a stretch to make that comparison. It only reminded me of a situation where somebody can say anything that pops into their head, and then people that follow him will just find some way to make it okay. Is it a good comparison? It probably didn't need to be made. It was in my head. Everything in my head does not need to come out my mouth. So yeah. I mean,
no, don't worry.
Is that clear?
Don't worry, Dawn.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. No, the other thing was when you talk about gaslighting, but it's in the same way, right? In the same way, because you feel that maybe Christian is like manipulating somehow our minds, and it's far from that, you know. Yeah, he is a manipulator. He is, but the consequence is what matters here. Okay, I remember a statement that says, when you want to know who is guilty of charge of an action, go and see which the consequences are. Okay, if you see the consequences of something, you're going to find the guilty, the person who is guilty of that action. Okay, for example, in this case, what are the consequences of Christian saying something in a maybe provocative way? Okay, what is the consequence? This is the consequence.
Well, when I made that comment, it was specifically about his assertion that adults are better language learners than children.
That's why it makes you question your own truth.
If we are going to accept this, and you know, in order to follow his argument, you sort of have to accept his premise, or the premises that he puts down, right? And so he puts down this premise based on, I mean, well, let's not talk about what it was based on, but he asserts that adults are better language learners than children which, you know, we all have our own perspective, but the way I see things is that we all have the experience of, you know, what is it to be a native speaker? You're a native speaker because you grow up speaking the language, which means you have a very deep subconscious understanding of the extremely complex rules that govern the language. And so you use them effortlessly and with a sort of a perfect understanding that if you come to the language at a later stage in your life, you can learn the rules, but they're much more superficial than the rules that you learn as a child. And you learn those rules effortlessly. I think a lot of people believe they're teaching children language. And you know what it reminds me of? I read in this book, now people are going to think that I'm showing off my knowledge because I was accused of being, you know, the word pedantic when you're like,
Yeah,
look at all of the
don't worry,
academic knowledge that I have.
don't worry,
So
share
maybe,
it with me. Share it with me.
okay. But there's a Carl Jung book where he talks about some Native Americans who go out every morning and they believe that they are causing the sun to rise, that if they didn't go out there and will the sun to rise, it wouldn't rise. So they're out there every morning in their imagination making the sun rise. And I think when parents or teachers teach language to children, they are almost doing the same thing. Those children are learning the language and the adults give themselves the credit because they're like, what color is this? How do you know, I didn't teach my daughter to count. I didn't teach her colors. I didn't teach her all of this stuff, but she learned it perfectly because she's the one that's actually learning it. So I think that all of us have the experience of seeing what happens when you grow up with a language versus what happens when you come to it after that stage of development, and it's completely different. And this is all our experience. And I'm particularly sensitive to people trying to say something that would make you disbelieve your own experience, because I was in a 8-year relationship with a toxic manipulator, narcissist that did that to me all the time.
Yeah,
I'm out of that and I don't think about him anymore, but I'm sensitive to these things. And so I probably react more to something like that than another person. Also, so I felt like it was almost a case of trying to make us deny the reality that we have lived. And I just don't, you know, I'm particularly sensitive to that.
Yes, you know what? I think that we have come to the core of it, you know. I think people don't learn something because they study or they do something, because I think it's because they need to react or to make something. I mean, for example, there is one moment, okay, one moment, it's called logical moments, right? There is one moment for the human, for the person, is to see. Okay, you are watching, you are seeing things. It's a moment only for observation. Okay, you can stay all your life only observing. Okay, then you have the next consequent moment. Okay, that is to understand. Okay, the understanding moment is when something makes a click, okay, inside of you, and just, oh, okay, I understand this, I make relations, okay, and I understand. And then you have the moment of act, to do something or decide, okay, decision or acting, okay. That is the third moment, where in that moment you are the owner of whatever you were seeing or understanding or whatever. You own that, okay. And that is the moment, I think, when you learn something, okay, when you make it your own, okay. And for example, I imagine that Christian stands on a different position where you stand, but neither those, oh, I don't know how to say that, but none of those, ninguno de esos,
neither one of those
positions are incorrect, my dear. Okay, it's only a different position and point of view, and both need to be, like confronted, directed, and a lot of people are going to do something with that. Okay.
Mhm.
That is the thing, the most important thing that happened here. Okay.
Yes. Like I said in the beginning of the video, the clash of ideas can be intellectually stimulating and productive. So I tried to do the whole thing in that spirit where, I mean, sometimes it might have felt a little personal to some people, and there's always a danger of that. But mostly I wanted to challenge some ideas that I felt needed challenging, but in a friendly way.
Yes, of course, my dear. And you are completely welcome to keep doing that. Okay. Completely welcome. Please share everything you need to share. Okay.
But I don't want to hurt anybody. And I think that I might have, hurt some feelings in a few cases.
Yeah, the thing is that, some people may feel that like addressing Christian in such a way that, when you say that he's a liar, for example, no, for us.
Did I say he was a liar?
No, when you say that people follow him as Trump, Trump is a liar.
Right.
Be consequent of your own say. If you say that we follow him as Trump and Trump is a liar and we eat those lies, it's a lot of pushing, right? Pushing to the people that we like. I mean, I like him. I like him. And I imagine that some people that maybe reacted in some way is because they understand what Christian says, they like what Christian says, and they somehow are aligned with what Christian says, right? So if you question that, you are being gaslighting them, okay? But it's not like that. It's not like that. You are trying to say something that you believe, okay? And Christian is also doing that. He's trying to tell us something that he has been observing, and as a consequence, he says that, okay? And I completely agree with you. Maybe the line, the way that he did is not completely clear for some sort of logical understanding. But for a different logical understanding, for example, a more quantic or explosive kind of thinking, it's good to see, okay, you say this and now you confront with another, and then okay, so because you create a situation on the other person which makes them think. Okay, and that is the difference with the last gaslighting. You make the other person isolated, and you make a coercion to the other person, so that the other person is like that. And Christian, what he does is push you, think, come on, think, do something, don't make relations, do something if you want. But if you say that you want and you don't do, don't complain then. Okay, don't complain. So this is like the difference. And maybe that's why I would highly recommend to watch some other, I'm going to share with you some of the best videos that I have seen from Christian, right?
Sure.
Short videos, motivational, whatever. But I'm going to share because maybe you're going to feel the other side of Christian, right? Not the side that you felt here, maybe the other side of him. And in my personal opinion, I just want you to continue doing everything that you've been doing and more. Okay, I would invite you to do more things with the chat books. We really like your style, the way you say, we like it, so continue. If you want to criticize Christian, me, or whomever, do it because we grow together in this.
Okay. I love your attitude. I love your attitude, Kari.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. I speak too much. I am always like that. You have to stop me. And I said it was a short video.
Right. Mhm. Oh, we're under an hour. We're under an hour.
My dear, you finish the talking, so you have the last word. Just go ahead and say whatever you want. I am
Okay. All right. Well, I'm so glad that we finally got to have our chat. We've been planning to have it for a while, and now there was a specific topic to organize around. And I really appreciate getting your perspective on who Christian is and the effect that he has on people, because this is something that I would still like to understand. I think from the limited amount that I have been able to watch his videos and then observe how people think about him and the effect that he's had on people, I think that he has a very positive effect. And I feel maybe I react to him a little bit because in some ways I think that I'm very similar to him in our philosophy
yes,
and
yes,
approach and
that's right.
what we want to facilitate in people. And then we have, as I think Altamir, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, pointed
Yes,
out, it's more a difference of style. And I loved his comments, by the way. I mean, did you read his comments?
some of them
You
because they
have to
were
go back.
too long.
It was like this, but it was
But
exactly what you
when
said.
he
It was
mentions
exactly
that,
what you
I said, "Oh my God, I don't want to read Ken again."
but they were so fascinating, and it was exactly what you said. It was like, you're making me use my English because I have something to say, but they're very interesting. And like he pointed out, it's more a difference of style. So it's very intriguing to me how I feel like I resonate with him, and then I also feel this sort of difference. And so it's interesting, but there's still a lot more that I have to learn about that. So thank you for this conversation, and thank you for
I am the one thing.
creating this space where vigorous opinions can be exchanged, and we don't all have to agree, but we can still all respect each other and allow the clash of ideas, which can be so interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and it's always a little bit delicate, even if I'm sitting in a room physically with someone and a group of people, and we all are native English speakers, we can still have misunderstandings because we are all coming from different points of view, different assumptions. And so when you are from different cultures, different language backgrounds, you're not in real time, it can be very delicate. So thank you for your blessing on me raising this interesting topic where a lot of people had conflicting feelings and ideas, and for creating this space where this kind of thing can happen and is even welcomed.
No, thank you very much. It's very difficult to, go walking and not step into another's foot,
Right.
I don't know if I'm correct saying this, but it's difficult, right? Even if you try to be like really, because that is my style, right? I always try to go in between. I mean, in a point that is in the middle of the ridge. Okay, I understand your side, and I said the other side. I am a Libra. Sorry, Libra. Okay, and I'm like that always, even though sometimes I say something that the other person is not going to like it, and it's okay. It's okay. The best thing, the best possible thing here is not to get too much, crushed in something, or not get into that, right? Maybe, yes, you say something, okay, you defend it, but then you can, say, okay, let me hear this, let me hear that. Oh, I keep my opinion, maybe. Okay, but also respect the others, right?
Yeah.
You are not going to change anyone, no one. You're not going to change anyone. But if the other person wants to listen to you and somehow understands what you mean and wants to go in, align with you, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
And I have to say that the conversation in the chat box around this topic, I think it's really impressive how people were able to share different ideas without dividing into warring parties, because that happens so easily
Yeah.
in online situations where you're now suddenly you're just enemies, and
That's
and
right. And that's
that
what I
didn't
don't
happen.
like. Yeah. Sometimes I've been, I've been in the need of putting someone out of the chat box. Not often, of course, but if maybe once or twice I had to do that, right? Someone who was really rude, and only because of wanting to hurt another person or to hurt the chat box itself. So in that case, okay, but this is not the case. This is a perfect situation of people thinking wisely, but in a different position, maybe, So let's get, increased by this, not, on the other side, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Dawn. Tell me that you're going to do something else with the chat box, maybe in the near future. Imagine situations, create events, do something.
Yes, absolutely. You've got it. I'm going to tell you a line that my dad used to say to me when I was a little girl. I remember when I would ask him if I could, is it okay if we make a smoothie? And whatever I asked for, when he was going to say yes, he didn't just say yes, he would say this to me: "You've got it, smooth talker." And I love that line. So I'm saying that to you, Caddy. You've got it, smooth talker.
Thank you. That describes me well. Thank you, dear. Thank you, Dawn. And I hope that this is not the last time we had a chat. Maybe we can create a situation related to another topic, or maybe we can invite somewhere and have like over a topic, we can do something like that, because we need to have some good talks inside of the chat box. Okay. And this is some opportunity, I think. I don't know if you agree with me.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, as soon as I heard it was just going to be you and me, you couldn't believe the amount of things that my mind went to, like, oh, we could talk about this. We could talk about this. There's so much to talk about. So yeah.
Thank you very much. The same happened to me. The same exactly. Okay. And I hope that this is not the last one and we continue going.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Thank you very much, my dear.
Bye, Caddy.
Okay. Okay.